The Draw Object block allows you to draw graphical elements, including lines, shapes, signs, and text. You can customize each graphical object, but there are two very important things to keep in mind. First, the name of the graphical object must always be unique. You cannot have two objects with the same name. Secondly, it's crucial to understand how these objects are drawn on the chart, and I'll explain everything step by step. Drawings require specific points to be placed, much like coordinates. Some drawings need only 1 point, others require 2, and certain shapes can need up to 4 points. These points are determined by the chart's axes, the x-axis and the y-axis. The x-axis is the horizontal or time axis, which answers the question, when should we draw our point? The y-axis, on the other hand, is the vertical or price axis, telling us, at what level on the chart should we place our point? For drawings that need both the x and y axes, these two coordinates together help us pinpoint the exact location where we want to place our object. Now, let's look at some examples. Example 1, Horizontal Align. To draw a horizontal line, we only need one reference point, the y-axis, which represents the price. Let's see this in a practical example. Suppose we want to draw a line at the highest price that occurred between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. To do this, we can use the Market Properties condition and select Highest Price. Let's set the parameters. For period, we select time, since we need to specify a time. For convenience, we use local time. We set the start hour at 8 a.m. and the end hour at 12 p.m. We keep the day ID at 0, which corresponds to the current day, and leave the target value set to the price value. In this example, it's essential that the block is triggered after 12 p.m., so we need to place a time filter block before it, setting it to trigger at a later time, such as 12:01 p.m. This way, the line will be drawn at the highest price that occurred between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. Now, let's switch to cTrader for a backtest to see the result. As you can see, the horizontal line has been drawn correctly. Example 2, Vertical Align. For a vertical line, we also need just 1 point, but this time it's on the x-axis, representing when to draw it. Suppose we want to draw a line every day at 8 a.m. We can configure the block to use the current candle, setting candle ID 0. Then, using a time filter block, we can make sure the drawing is triggered exactly at 8 a.m. When we run the block, the line will be drawn at 8 a.m. each day. However, you'll notice that every day the new line replaces the previous one. If we want to keep all the lines on the chart, we need to enable the Allow Multiple Instances option. This will ensure each line remains on the chart. Example 3, Sign. Now, let's look at an example that requires 2 reference points, one on the x-axis and one on the y-axis. We'll take an up arrow as an example. To draw this arrow, we need to know when to draw it, x-axis, and at what price to place it, y-axis. Suppose we want to draw an up arrow every time our fast-moving average crosses above the slow-moving average, signaling a buy opportunity. We set up the condition for the moving average crossover. When the condition is met, we link it to a Pass Once Per Bar block to prevent multiple arrows from being drawn. Since the condition, where the moving average crossover remains true, could persist throughout the next candle, without this block, it would result in infinite arrows being drawn. By adding the Pass Once Per Bar block, we ensure that only one arrow is drawn per bar, even if the condition remains valid. For the x-axis, we choose the current candle ID 0. For the y-axis, we choose the low of the candle, so the arrow will be drawn below the candle. Let's run a backtest to see how this setup behaves. Example 4. Rectangle. Let's look at how to draw a shape like a rectangle, which requires 4 points. 2 on the x-axis and 2 on the y-axis. Imagine we want to draw a rectangle over 3 candles. The first point we need to identify is the low of candle ID 3. For the first point, we select the candle from 3 periods ago by setting candle ID 3 for the x-axis and the low of the candle for the y-axis. For the second point, we need to locate the high of candle 1, which is this point. For the x-axis, we select candle ID 1, and for the y-axis, we choose the high of candle ID 1. Let's run a practical example of this drawing in a backtest. As you can see, the rectangle is successfully drawn over these 3 candles. That's everything for the Draw Object block. The logic works the same for all graphical drawings. Identifying the right points on the time and price axes to create the drawing you want. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.